I'm very glad to welcome you to the Q&A for Bless You, written and directed by Sanjay Sure and part of the narrative features lineup at the 45th Asian American International Film Festival. My name is Harsh Pandit. I'm one of the film programmers for the festival that is taking place in New York City and online between August 3rd and August 13th. Before we begin, I just want to thank our sponsors, Citibank and Life Water. Um, Now, please join me in welcoming Sanjay Sure, the writer and director of Bless You. Thank you so much, Sanjay, for making time to do this
Yeah.
Q&A for
Thank
our
you. Thank you all.
viewers. Yeah. So I actually wanted to start at the beginning, and since like this is a film based on a very classic Anton Chekhov story, which is a short story, and I was
Yes.
wondering how did you come around to like adapting it, and when did you start imagining it as a feature film?
Actually, our team basically we all come from theatre background, and we have a group called Mumbai Theatre and Films, which actually is from most of the members are from NSD, that is National School of Drama in Delhi. So this was a play we had done in past. So basically, we had done quite a few Chekhov work on stage. So this was a short story and a one-act play, which was done by our theater group, say 2 3 years ago. So in COVID time, these times, so we all were actually stuck. Nobody had work, and we were just thinking, what should one do? And we thought of adapting this story. If you know the background of this short story, uh, we found some similarities in current situations at that time point of time, and then that is how it started rolling on, and then we came up with actual script, and it was fitting completely in today's background and the surroundings in the COVID period, what we were facing. So the same things we adapted, and actually that is how it unfolded.
That's great to hear because I see a lot of films being made throughout the pandemic and like after the pandemic, but a lot of them still try to avoid that a thing like that happened. And I like that you are taking that subject and just making it into like a COVID experience film because we go through a lot of experience that the characters go through, which are very realistic. Live streaming, everyone was like live streaming, everyone was on the Zoom. And I was wondering what were the things that you decided to keep and were there any things that you decided to take out related to the pandemic backdrop?
See, pandemic was a backdrop for the whole thing, and the things actually were happening around us. There is nothing imaginary or much, you can say, fictionary. It is all the incidents we put together in a sequence, and that is how the film was framed. See, pandemic, most of the people were thinking of very sad backgrounds and negative feelings. But we thought few, actually, if you see our film, it's kind of a black comedy. You can see some humor in the film. So we were actually picking up the humor. One second. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah, we picked up the humor, and uh, uh, like so we shot everything on on real locations, and actually the whole things people were going through, what people were doing in this pandemic period. So we picked up every small detail and put them in a very realistic fashion, without no actually made up things, no setups, no makeup, very realistic people, very realistic stories, and that is how it actually the film was made.
That's great. I really like your stress upon making things realistic. And that's one part of the film that I really like is we have all these different characters which are very memorable. and these are common people. You see them around, especially in Mumbai.
Yes.
But at the same time, they all have very distinct personality. And I wanted to invite you to talk about how you wrote these characters and how you worked with your actors to make these characters really, you know, identifiable and basically memorable.
See, actually, what happened is when we thought of this film, this basic story, the characters, the people who are playing, they are from real life and stage people. So, main task was putting them in a Maharashtrian family. So, the actors who have played this main family, they are not Maharashtrians. They belong to North India, north side of the country. So basically, teaching them from the Maharashtrian family backgrounds, small nuances, and picking up small things. Actually, what happens in our households. So we picked up everything. We trained them. We actually like for few days we like a lot of discussions, a lot of actual references going to different people's house. But it was very difficult because pandemic. Nobody was going to anybody's houses. So that was the time when we shot the film. But still, somehow we managed to cope up with the things, taking references, and my actors also played very well. So they also studied very well, and being stage people, theater personalities, so they picked up things very fast, and that is how the characters were built. The main character, the Sadanand, who is a hero of the story, he actually he is somebody we associate like I know a character like that. There was
Mm,
one guy who actually used to work with me in my advertising agency. He was like that, very paranoid, very you can say a family background, playing very safe, no taking risks, and god fearing. So the lot of small things we picked up from such characters. Even for the female part who played his wife, so she is actually non-Maharashtrian, but actually she was given a lot of references. She talked to a lot of ladies in the area, then how they behave, how they cook, how they make their meals, and how they look after kids. So she is actually, yeah, she doesn't have kids, but she actually studied how the kids behave, how to how in those times, like people used to manage their household chores. So all these
mm,
things were put together, studied well, and actually the houses where we shot the thing, they're all real locations. Actually, real house we have taken for the shoot. So real kitchen, real utensils, and real cooking methods. Everything was studied properly, and that is how the most of the pre-production. A lot of discussions and you cannot say workshops, but trials and observations. A lot of things went in details, so
mhm,
that we didn't want to miss any or mismatch any backgrounds. Like it's somebody is from north or somebody is from south of the India. That shouldn't come in between, and the thing shouldn't happen because the story is based in Mumbai. So
mm,
Mumbai has a Mantralaya where actually it's a capital, economic capital of a state, an
yeah.
economic capital of India. So basically, Mantralaya, all ministries and secretariats and everything is here in Mumbai. So
Mm,
this main character who works in the Mantralaya, that is secretariat, he's a government clerk.
mm,
So how he will behave and how his bosses are here, because the boss also is a South Indian character what we have shown, and these are real people actually. If you see in a lot of secretaries, secretaries in Maharashtra, see, they come from various states. They
mm,
are administrative officers. Then a lot of people come from other states, and there are South Indians, there are North Indians, there are the Bengalis, Assamese, all type of officers. So this character is a South Indian based character, like character. So that is how these different characters were matched, and these are actually we studied real people. There
mm,
are references. So we have taken a lot of references, how they behave, how they, how their houses are, how what they wear, how they move, and what their
Mm,
characteristics, is, how they talk. So these are that was the real actually study part of the whole thing. So that is
mm.
how actually we could put together everything in a very realistic manner.
Okay, that's great to hear that you are so uh, you want to put that realism you on screen, and you want to all of that, you want to bring all of that authenticity, so that and that's why I think the film becomes so believable and so relatable and universal. um, I wanted to step back a little and like think about since you mentioned that this is your first feature film and you've had an early career in advertising and branding. A lot of times advertising is about like economic storytelling where you have a very short time to convey an idea or like tell a story and make it really, make people understand in a very short span of time. But here you have a short story turned into a feature film. So to me, that was a very interesting dynamic, and I wanted you to talk about how was the experience of moving on to the feature film storytelling, and compared to your advertising background, and especially in context of this film and like imagining this whole world for this short story.
Yes, see, in advertising, what happens is that you work on a brief. There always for any advertising material, there is a brief. May it be a film, may it be a print campaign, outdoor campaign, everything. See, there is a brief. You know exactly what has to be done. So you have to just debrief. You have to think. So there is something to begin with, as
Hmm.
against when you are creating something on your own. See, it's like a blank canvas, and you are staring at a blank canvas without any idea, without any brief to work on. You have to imagine everything. So in this case, what happened is, since it was a Chekhov story, so there was a brief.
Hmm.
So then
Hmm.
from there, see, always in advertising, what happens is whenever we study any product, service, whatever, so there is a lot of pre-work goes into, there are a lot of surveys, there are a lot of reports, everything jargon is going on. And from there, you come to one line brief. So here, actually, there is no brief, but still, there was a story in the background which we had staged on a theater. But then that story actually was converted into a real life situation. So that story was a little different. Only there was a small germ of a government clerk. But if you see the original story, it ends in a very different and tragic way. But here we have turned it into a very comic way, and converting into a real life situation. At the same time, there is a comment on a today's whatever is happening
Hmm.
around us. It's like a mirror to the society. What is happening? See,
Yeah.
even though on a pandemic background, there a lot of good work was happening. So government machineries, everything was working, but still there were a lot of allegations of corruption, and then a lot of things were there. So nobody was actually talking about it, but things were coming in media, and we were knowing exactly somewhere something was also happening. See, there was a lot of good work also. I
Yeah.
don't deny that. But actually, in this thing, accidentally, see, there are some people, they actually misbehave with the system. And this was an opportunity we found, like there is a germ which can actually take on this subject. So that is
Hmm.
how actually it unfolded. So basically, that is how the advertising background helped me
Hmm.
in developing a small idea, small germ into a big, full-fledged execution thing.
That's a very nice way to put it, I think, because I think that will also be like really inspiring to a lot of filmmakers in how to use your background, how to use all you already know and put it in a completely different, platform. Um, I also wanted to talk about the design of the film because we have so many different things. Chekhov's story is very realistic and quite straightforward. But in your film, we have one thing is we have world building. We have all these characters. They're going through this all these Zoom experiences and the humor of that. Then we have once the conflict happens, we have Sadanand going through all his phases in a very dynamic way where he's forgetting what day it is, and there are like multiples of him. Then there are songs which have an interesting backdrop, which is pure design in a sense. So I wanted you to talk about using these contemporary film techniques to increase that paranoia or increase that drama.
Yes, that is again, I'll put it in this way that this is a part of a storytelling. This is again styling the whole thing. Well, as I said earlier, a lot of people, they have done a lot of short films and a lot of work I have seen on pandemic background, but everything was very gloomy. It was a sad thing.
Mm,
Either that or it was a bravery stories like how somebody helped somebody and somebody actually survived through this pandemic thing. But when we thought of this story, we thought, okay, there is some humor in it, and why not to make it a little humorous and watchable thing? Because see, if I'm looking at a feature film, full-length film, then no one should get bored if you put it very plainly, yeah, without any adding to the cinematic liberties, then it would become very again very gloomy or very sad kind of story. But we didn't want to make that kind of story. We wanted to make people enjoy the whole thing. Okay,
mm,
background was pandemic, but pandemic was not story in this.
mm,
Story is like a small government clerk who actually goes through something and something accidentally happens, and then the thing becomes something to take on the system. So that kind of a progress is there, and okay, it goes on. He becomes like a hero of suddenly everyone, that okay, he has discovered something, he has something, he had captured, he is a brave guy. But actually he's not. He's again the same the Sadanand who used to be like earlier. So he's not actually uh, like he doesn't think himself as a hero or any brave person.
yeah.
So that is why we have we chosen. There are songs actually.
Mm,
There is one funny song also, like how the husband and wife, they
yeah.
actually, he is thinking of his boss, how to convince his boss, and his wife thinks that he is having an extramarital affair,
Yeah.
how to seduce him. So that kind of a song, it's a very typical Hindi cinema kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But actually, we thought that situation actually demands that, or it fits very well in the situation. It's a good comic relief also. So
Yeah.
that is one thing, and there is one more sad, which is a song. It's a classical Hindustani based Thumri
Mm,
kind of a song, which actually shows that okay, that there is something going on between husband and wife. Like she is suspecting something, and husband is not actually involved in the family, or there is something happening between them. So
mm,
there actually we thought it's a place for a song. Otherwise, okay, there is one more song actually. It's not a song, it's kind of poem, which actually in the beginning, very beginning,
yeah.
the title goes. So that actually explains exactly how things were opening up. So
Mm,
the period when the things actually after first lockdown, exactly that was the situation, and that is when we shot the things. How
oh,
actually city was started moving, things were opening up slowly. People were very actually you can say some people were courageous, some were very protective,
mm,
families were protective, schools were not yet started, things were happening only online and Zoom meetings and Zoom classes. And then small families, they had this typical problem I have seen in lot of families.
mm,
Classes used to happen on Zoom calls, and people didn't have device, so how to conduct the classes? So these things we have, and like kids were slowly actually uh, they were enjoying also that, also they were taking advantage also. So
Hmm.
that is how the life was going on at that point of time.
Yeah, yeah, that's a great answer. I think I'll just ask one last question, and that would be since this is also like very clear to me that Mumbai is such a character in this film, and it's not just a backdrop, but it really forms the basis for all these characters. And you, as you mentioned before, like in Mumbai, people are from all the different states, and India is such a diverse country. And I felt that you made sure of representation within India itself, which is not a very common thing. Um, there is transgender representation. There is people from all the different social strata, all the different states, as you mentioned. And I just wanted to invite you to like talk about why Mumbai was such a ground for this particular story.
Okay. See, Mumbai, because I belong to Mumbai, I know Mumbai in detail. So I've spent most of my life in Mumbai. I studied here, I grown up here, then I worked here. So that I know every nook and corner of the Mumbai. And
Mm,
not only that's an advantage I have to portray. When we thought of this film and these backgrounds and these families, so we actually thought these families from Mumbai only,
mm,
and Mumbai being a capital city of the state. So there is this secretariat also, which is again the secretary is again a part of the story,
mm,
the commissioner. So this commissioner. So this story happens in Mumbai. It was thought that this backdrop is of Mumbai. Mumbai, not on, okay. There is another thing to Mumbai. Mumbai is very colorful. You
mm,
can portray in a very different styles. You can make hundreds of films in a different and which won't look similar to each other. There are a lot of things you have, every kind of background, every kind of background, lot of different people from all strata, all the communities, caste, languages, music, uh, culture, everything you will find in Mumbai. Mumbai is like a mini globe or mini India, you can say. Everything is here. So there are like a lot of public transport is also very interesting. Buses are there, then local trains here are different. Then there are cabs, then there are signals, and every signal you find these transgenders asking for money. That is a typical character of Mumbai. I don't think other cities have this type of, because see, as it is,
mm,
Mumbai signals are always crowded, traffic signals, and you will find without mistake you'll find a lot of transgenders. They'll come to your windows, they'll knock your windows, they'll peep in your cars. So these are like funny situations, but it happens every day, and this is what is the everyday life in Mumbai. So that is what actually we wanted to portray.
that's great. I think that's a great way to end this conversation. Sanjay, thanks again for your time. Thanks again for this wonderful Q&A session. Thank you for your film. We are so glad to have it part of the festival.
Thank you, Harsh. Thank you and your team and your festival. All the best, and we are looking forward to the festival.
Thank you.